Okay, for my project, I did Black women in hip hop, and my focus was from the 1990s. So just to note, all of my headings for my slides are lyrics from hip hop songs. So this one is Hip Hop Started Out in the Heart, and that is a lyric from Lauryn Hill. And this is where hip hop began. So it started in the 1970s in the Bronx, New York. It was majorly influenced by DJ Kool Herc in 1973. So what happened was he had threw a party in his Bronx apartment, and he was influenced by Jamaican sound. So he used a guitar amp and two turntables, and he just made this unique sound. So that is known as kind of like the birth of hip hop as we know it today. So what the hip hop culture consisted of was DJing, breakdancing, rapping, and graffiti. But the early music was more spoken word, and it was a group called The Last Poets. They were really non-violent. They were really conscious of, the black experience and things like that. So that's how hip hop started. And then these are images from the 70s. This is a group from the 70s. They're performing at, it was like a lot of underground clubs and things like that, and they have the graffiti in the background, which is a part of the culture. And then you have a guy DJing right here, or disc jockeying, and then you have some kids breakdancing in front of the stoop, and it'll be on like cardboard, and it'll just be like people surrounding them, watching them, while the music's playing on the boombox, just vibing. So this section is called Nothing But a Gangsta Party. It's a rap lyric from Tupac, and this is when things begin to change, and this is kind of the main point that I'm making for my project. So things began to change in the 1980s when gangster rap emerged. You see an influx of misogynistic and violent rap lyrics, especially toward women. Two studies that I found, one by Amy Binder in 1993, and the other was from Poncho McFarlane. The one with Amy Binder discovered that hip hop, like she surveyed hip hop and heavy metal songs from 1985 to 1990, and she found that rap was more sexually explicit and graphic, whereas heavy metal's allusion to sexual acts and male domination was very subtle. And they were always comparing like sexuality in music with heavy metal and hip hop, so this showed that it was more prevalent in hip hop. And then the second study by McFarlane, he showed out of songs surveyed from 1999 to 2000 that there were two main themes of rap music. It was racial inequality and an endorsement of male supremacy over women. So a lot of, rappers, their main thing was to talk about the black experience, or what it was like being a young black man in America, things like police brutality and, poverty, just trying to make it out of the ghetto, and then domination over women. So, they were in charge, women were obligated to have sex, things like that. And then a statistic that I found in my research was that 22% of songs feature lyrics of violence against women, and this included assault, rape, and murder. So, especially with gangster rap, they will rap about smacking, you know, as they would say, smacking bitches, or, forcing her to have sex, or drugging her, even in some songs. The rapper Biggie Smalls, he rapped about drugging women to make them have sex, and it was just a really nasty sentiment. I don't even know if I can call it a sentiment. It was just a nasty thing going on. So I decided to focus, and I sampled the group 95 South. They came out of the Dirty South, and they dropped their album Quad City Knock in 1993. It was 18 tracks on the song. They called it the Booty Anthem because all the songs are about women's butts. Well, not all of them, but most of them. It hit the top Billboard Hot 100 and 200. So a lot of people heard this album. It was very popular. To this day, people still know their hit song. Whoop, there it is. This album really captured the essence of hip hop. They had, tracks with freestyling for male and females. They had records just, DJs on the ones and twos, like, just styling. Um, it was just, what hip hop was and what it was becoming. It was just all in one. But what I wanted to point out was a lot of the songs on the album featured lyrics that were very degrading for women that, viewed them as commodities. Pretty much they were the stripper hoes and the bees, and, they were obligated to have sex with these men because the men had money, and that was their attitude, and that's what they expressed. So before any listeners even heard the album cover features, I guess that's the group in the background. They're, on a lowrider riding down 95 South. But you have four black women here. As you can see, they're provocatively dressed. They're posing. They have their butts out. They're on their knees. And, all of these are pretty much subliminals. Like, they wanted women to be submissive and overly sexual, and they mainly targeted their own women, black women. So, in one of their songs, well, their hit song, Who There It Is, they labeled women's assets as money makers. I'm not going to say all the lyrics, but this is just one verse that, like, stood out to me. So they were saying, hey girl over there in the blue, I got a pocket full of cash, so what you gonna do? Turn around and spread them cheeks and let's play a little game of hide and seek. Show me that and I'll give you this, a $20 bill that's nice and crisp. You gotta do the work. Make that booty clap and watch me go berserk. So they're pretty much making women do things for money. And yeah, that's what it was. Other songs that share these same ideas was Hump With It, which is really popular, Bring Out the Hose, Booty Hop, and Do It Baby. All of them talking about women doing things for money, for men. And one of the songs, I forget which one it was, but it specifically said that it was women's duty to have sex. That's what it was. So this section is called Rap Life and Rap, and this is a lyric from Joe Budden. And this is misogyny outside of rap, some by rappers, some not. But this particular case was with Dr. Dre. He was a member of NWA, that's NIGGA's with attitude. So he, in the 90s, he got into some trouble because he assaulted his girlfriend, who's featured right here. Her name is Dee Barnes. It was reported that he had pushed her down a flight of steps, stomped her out, assaulted her in a lot of ways. And when he was confronted in an interview with the Rolling Stone, he brushed it off and pretty much said all he did was pushed her through a door, as if that was okay. And during the interview, his other member of the group, Eazy-E, he co-signed and replied, "The bitch deserved it." And that was really like the attitude of a lot of men during the time that, women were bees and hoes, and, whatever men did to them, that's what they deserved, or that's what they should have done. And Dr. Dre, he was not affected by this at all. He still went on to be one of the most successful men in music. His net worth now is over $700 million. He was completely successful despite the fact that he disrespected women, he assaulted them, and when he was interviewed and confronted about it, he showed no remorse. And his both of his exes Michelle A., who he had abused, and D. Barnes. They spoke out after the movie Straight Outta Compton, which was like a biopic about NWA, and it didn't talk about, Dr. Dre's abuse. And that's pretty much because people didn't care. They cared about his music, and that was it. They didn't care about, what he was doing to women, how they talked about them, and things like that. So another example of the misogyny in real life was from the Atlanta, Georgia Freaknik, and I have a video of it right here if you want to watch it. It's very disturbing. But the Freaknik began in 1983 and it went through the 90s. I think like the last one was maybe 1997, but it's no reported date of when it exactly ended. So it was originally called Freaknik, meaning fraternize and have a picnic. So it was just like a spring break event for HBCU students to come, have fun during spring break. It was music, it was parties, just the regular college experience. But over time, someone pretty much like renamed it or misunderstood the whole point of the event, and it gained the name Freaknik. And it just basically turned into this raunchy street fest. There were, young adults all in the street drunk, women, you know, displaying themselves in a way that we would say is improper according to society's norms. Men grabbing their body parts and things like that. But this event was a major event for businesses. For the music business, I'm sorry, like, with the concerts, the album sales like skyrocketed during the time because everybody wanted the latest tunes. And, a lot of rappers, singers, they will all be down there, the whole big thing, to sleep with a rapper and things like that. Like, that was the whole idea of the event. So over time, they ended Freaknik because it was just too expensive on the city. It was like millions of dollars in cleanup, millions of dollars in security. The traffic was horrible, as if Atlanta traffic isn't bad enough. And then there were high counts of rape. One year there was a reported 10 rapes in the weekend. Women were treated at the hospital because they were brutally raped by men at the event. And you can see in the video, it's just the sexual assault is just very prevalent. They're pulling down women's clothes, have women up in the air with their legs wide open. It was a mess. So this section I called She's a Bitch, and that's a lyric by Missy Elliott, who was a 1990s rapper. And this was how music was defined, and how music defined what a bitch was and what it meant. So the term, when used in rap songs by men, often meant a woman who demasculates her man by running her household or being financially independent, or as a woman who does not know her place. It's also a woman who rudely violates conceptions of proper sex role behavior. So a woman who, could hold her own, or a woman who was not going for being all in a man's face. A lot of times, even in interviews or videos or just walking down the street, if a man approaches a woman and she denies, it's like, oh, F that B, like, that B, she's stubborn, or, things like that. So that's, how it was defined in rap music. But in the 1980s, we began to see a turn, and I named this section Ladies First. That's a lyric, that's a song by Queen Latifah, who was a rapper in the 80s. And this is when women in hip hop began to take a stand. So you see an influx of positive female rappers such as Queen Latifah, Salt and Pepper, Monty Love, and MC Lyte. And, these women were rapping about being queens, not being inferior to men. Don't get me wrong, they still talked about having sex or having a good time and things like that, but it wasn't, it wasn't as provocative, you know, as the music was before. You know, they were preaching power and, you know, preaching success and how, you know, men should respect them and, you know, things like that. And then it continued in the 1990s with the Brat, Missy Elliott, Erykah Badu, and Lisa Left Eye Lopez. Like, you know, one of the TLC songs with Lisa Left Eye Lopez was I Ain't Too Proud to Beg. And they were just promoting safe sex and, you know, consent, which, you know, was not really all that popular. And then you had them kind of depicting like a male role, like they weren't really concerned with being, you know, super sexy or super feminine. You know, they wore like baggy clothes. Some would say men's clothes. They would be very, you know, earthy, represent their African roots, just trying to get back to when things were positive and, you know, when things were in a more positive light and they weren't just seen to be so negative. It was just trying to push towards positivity. So this is, you know, when that image of positive women in hip hop kind of it began to diminish. So you have Lil Kim. So this part is Lil Kim be the baddest bee in Brooklyn. That was one of her lyrics, and this is a different approach to hip hop. So in the 1990s, you have rapper Lil Kim and Foxy Brown. They, you know, sold sex and fantasy and, you know, wore the sleazy clothes and the lingerie and, you know, was the eye candy to men, you know, be on their arm, rapping about, you know, crazy things like pretty much using men for their money, like, you know, pretty much like men get down on your knees, you know, I'm a bee, I'm a hoe, but, you know, I want your money, and that's what it is. Like they just that was their thing, but their whole I guess essence or what they were attempting to do was trying to reclaim the word bitch or the word hoe. Like they wanted to, you know, take it back. So men called them this, and they're like, yeah, you know, I am that. I am a bee, but I'm independent. You know, I do what I want, trying to make it into a positive thing, but in reality, it just increased the idea of commodification and the consumption of the black female body. Like, you know, people weren't seeing it as, oh yeah, you know, I'm a bee, it's a good thing. It's like, you know, like, you know, I should be sexual and, you know, I should use these men with, like, you know, use my body to get what I want and things like that. And, you know, a lot of people didn't see that to be a positive thing. So these are pictures of, this is Foxy Brown, and this is Lil Kim, and, you know, this is, you know, how they look. They had on the lingerie, and, you know, their bodies were tight, and they rapped about it, and that's, you know, that was their thing. So now, you know, this is where I really sampled, you know, the turn or the attempt for, you know, things to go a different way from what we heard in 95 South's album. So this section is called Music is Supposed to Inspire. That's a lyric by Lauryn Hill, and this section is about Lauryn Hill. So her album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, released in 1998. It was her one and only solo album. She was originally a member of the Fugees, but, you know, she branched off and did her own thing, and this is what we got. So the album was an attempt to change the trajectory of hip hop. The Apple Music description of the album is really powerful, so I thought that it would be befitting to read it. It says, during the time that the album was released, materialism and misogyny was rampant, fanned by music videos that presented women as objects of conquest. Hill's album provided a sharp counterpart by injecting the perspective of a black woman dealing with identity and sexuality. So, you know, she rapped about positive things. She rapped about love. She rapped about the joys of motherhood in her song To Zion, which was an ode to her unborn son. She rapped about making out of the ghetto in her song Every Ghetto, Every City. She rapped about religion, um, just a slew of things that just wasn't about, just making money or, using men or using women or, shaking your butt or being a stripper or, any of those things. It was just trying to highlight the positivity of the black community and the black experience and, how you can, still be true to yourself without, selling out your people, So, um, two songs that I wanted to point out, which were I saw as like direct digs, to like the misogynistic ideas that men shared in their rap albums were Superstar and Forgive Them Father. So Superstar, the part that said, um, so it goes, come on, baby, light my fire. Everything you drop is so tired. Music is supposed to inspire. How come we ain't getting no higher? So she's just talking about like we're not elevating by, you rapping about making money or, shaking your body. Like that's not what music was about. Like music was about highlighting the, the best parts of your life and building each other up, not tearing each other down. And she's just like, those old lyrics, they're tired. Like everybody was talking about the same thing and none of it was good. And then in Forgive Them Father, she said, beware the false motives of others. Be careful of those who pretend to be brothers, and you never suppose it's those who are closest to you. They all say the right things to gain their position, then use your kindness as ammunition to shoot you down in the name of ambition. So it's like, men are using these derogatory lyrics towards women as a means for them to get successful. The raunchier the lyrics, it seems like the most raunchy or the most horrid lyrics are making the most money, are charting the best. And it's giving like men like this false sense of how women should be treated, that women should be dominated and this and that, but in reality that's not the case. And they're supposed to be, your brothers, like in the black community, the black men are seen as your brothers, but yet they're disrespecting women and things like that. So she was just digging at it like, this is what it is, but this is what it should be, rap about something else. Like, don't use me as your ammunition. Don't, switch it up. So along with, her positive and her conscious lyrics, her image was, different from that of Lil' Kim and Foxy Brown. She was an earth tone woman. She wore her natural hair, a natural face, minimal makeup if she wore any makeup at all. She didn't wear too much very provocative clothes. She was more conservative. Um, and she just focused on her talent rather than her body. And yeah, so that's my project. It's basically how men depicted women in 95 South, but how women attempted to change that and how some women even fed into it. But at the end of the day, we know that, misogyny is wrong. Women are much more than how they were depicted. And yeah, that's my project.